Hello again. I'm back with another Swiss Army knife. I've not done a Swiss Army knife in quite a long time, but of course I'm still collecting them. My collection of Swiss Army knives is steadily growing as always. I'm still just as in love with Victorinox knives as ever. And Swiss Army knives are definitely the main focus of my collection. I'm absolutely crazy over Swiss Army knives. I just love them. They're just so much fun to collect. Today we're going to be looking at the Victorinox Electrician. This was bought about a month or two ago from Knives and Tools for £35. Now unfortunately it took about 3 to 4 weeks to actually get here. That's not Knives and Tools' fault in the slightest. I think it's a combination of the ongoing situation, the Rona, as well as Brexit. Truth be told, I've not been paying attention to Brexit because I'm getting absolutely bloody sick of it. But before someone decides to whine in the comments to say how awful they think Brexit is, I'll just leave this here just to upset you in advance. Okay, that aside, I have heard as well that the situation with that has gone back to normal. Knives and Tools are shipping back as normal. From what I've read, I've not bought from Knives and Tools in quite a while, but the shipping has went up a little bit, which is unfortunate, but that's just how it is. Anyway, I'm sure there's a bunch of people raging right now. Let's just talk about knives. Let's just leave that nonsense behind for now and look at the knife. There's one thing that I do want to say that that does kind of make this knife a little bit unusual. It doesn't have the keyring. It feels very strange having a Victorinox knife that doesn't have a keyring. I know some of them had a bail before. I don't have any of those models with a bail, but I've only got 2 other knives in my Victorinox collection that I don't have a bail, which I'll quickly, sorry, a keyring, which I'll quite quickly show you now. The other one is the Victorinox Phantom, and the last one is a vintage Victorinox Recruit. Now I'm not surprised that this one doesn't have a keyring because this is very old. This one has a few features that sort of give away its age a bit. I mean, just straight away you can see there that the corkscrew has some floating on it, whereas the current production models do not. So I did just want to say it seems a bit unusual, the knife not having a keyring. I don't have a problem with that. It does actually feel a bit more comfortable. There's nothing to rattle. I mean, if I just pick it up, obviously there's nothing at all making any rattling at all, but the rest of them do. Now that's not a problem in the slightest. It doesn't bother me. I actually prefer to have the keyring on there. It just feels excuse me, it just feels a little bit odd is all I'm saying. And with that, there's absolutely no way to attach it to your keys if you're so inclined, nor can you put a chain or a lanyard on there. So no fancy paracord lanyards with beads or no nice pieces of woven leather on there. It's just a case of it's getting flung in your pocket or it's going in a slip. As this isn't one of the fancy colour ones, such as this green Pioneer, I'm personally not too worried about it being thrown in the pocket because there's no nice paint to be removed or anodizing or whatever it is. And these usually don't scratch up too badly anyway. That's definitely the pro side of the silver model, opposed to the nicer coloured editions. All that aside, it's basically the exact same thing as your standard Pioneer. Now I don't actually have a standard Pioneer. What I do have is a Knives and Tools Green Edition Pioneer. We can see there, these are made exclusively for Knives and Tools in this particular shade. That if I put it side by side, you can see that it's really identical, the only difference being the colour and the addition of the keyring. And if I flip it around to show you the back springs, now if those were both the same colour, you wouldn't know the difference. I mean, I'm sure there are some people that are really into this, that are basically experts, that probably could pick out a difference. I'm not one of them. So what makes this an electrician and not a Pioneer? Well, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's just look at the other features. So, no surprise at all, we have the standard Victorinox Alox main blade, and I'll just open up the Pioneer, and I probably should have picked up a Spartan or some other Swiss Army knife, some other standard Swiss Army knife to show the difference, but I completely forgot. But I'll just use that little tourist there as an example. So you can see there that the blades on the two knives are basically the same. They're the same length, they're the same thickness, they're basically identical. And I'll just bring in the vintage tourist. That's probably not a good example actually, because it has this little bit ground onto it here, whereas the current production models actually don't. But you can see there though that the Electrician, it does have a bit of a beefier blade. Other tools, well, just like the Pioneer and the Farmer, we have a reamer, an awl. I don't know why I call it a reamer, I've never called it a reamer. We've got an awl for poking holes in wood and leather. I tend to use these quite a bit. In fact, I used this just today to scratch a card. What do you call those things? Scratch cards. These work perfectly fine. I sometimes use the knife blade to do scratch cards. Not that I'm using scratch cards often, but I sometimes use a knife blade, and obviously that does it. This doesn't need to be particularly sharp. And I would say it's a bit easier to sharpen as well. The third tool we have is a bottle opener, screwdriver and wire bender. Not that anyone uses the wire bender, but we've got that screwdriver and bottle opener just like every other Pioneer model. And the thing that sets this out from the standard Pioneer is, surprise surprise, an electrician's knife. What gave that away? So we've got obviously a flat edge here about 1 inch, and we've got this, I don't even know what to call it, just a curved blade for stripping wire, I think. Truth be told, I don't have the first clue how to use an electrician's knife. I'm crap with cables and wires and anything to do with electrical, anything, honestly. So there's that. But obviously I needed to have this for my collection, and this is one of those blades that it will work fantastically for opening packages as well as whittling. I could see that being a great little whittling or carving knife. I mean, it's a nice short blade. The handle's the perfect size. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't mind using that as a whittling knife. Yeah, now I will say the blade is ground on both sides, just like most knives are. But if you look at the curved section of the blade here, it is ground on this side, but not on this side. So the curved section is actually chisel ground. So lastly, I think we'll just open up all the tools just so you can get a nice look. Oh, what's going on there? Something didn't feel right. Anyway, if we just open everything up, just so we can compare it directly to, in fact, I think what I'll do is I'll close that a bit, open that up, because that's usually how I like to do it. There we are. And if I do the exact same thing with the standard Pioneer. Now, there is a bit of a hefty price difference between the standard Pioneer and the standard Electrician. The standard silver Pioneer usually only costs about £20, whereas this Electrician, as I said, was bought for £35. That's a difference of £15 to remove the can opener and replace it with an electrician's blade. How Victorinox can justify a £15 difference for this knife, I do not know. I'm a big fan of Victorinox and Swiss Army knives in general, but I do sometimes have to wonder, how does Victorinox get away with the prices they put out? I guess it's because of crazy collectors like myself who just absolutely love buying Victorinox's products. I mean, I've heard some people sort of refer to it as an addiction. Not gonna lie, collecting Swiss Army knives is a little bit addictive. It's just so much fun. There's just so much variety. Got to have them all, as it were. So if I just compare it here to the Pioneer, the colour doesn't really matter too much. It's the same thing at the end of the day. So obviously the bottle openers, the awls, the main blades, and the can opener screwdriver, whereas on the Electrician we have the electrician's knife, obviously. So I'll just also compare it to a handful of other knives that you will probably be familiar with. So here is a Tourist. It's an 84mm model. It doesn't matter that it's the vintage one, the new ones are basically the same, just with a more modern design. Like I said, the modern one doesn't have the fluted corkscrew, that sort of thing. And there's a handful of other differences. And if I get out the Farmer, obviously the only difference between the Farmer and the Electrician is the Farmer has a saw and a can opener. Let's see, something a bit more modern. We will compare it to the SOG Terminus, which is definitely an excellent EDC. And might I suggest, if you wish to pair up your Victorinox Electrician with some other EDC items, especially something that matches, I could wholeheartedly recommend that you pair up your Victorinox Electrician with a Desert Eagle. Because, I mean, if there's someone that's upset that you've got your Swiss Army knife, well, they're not going to be too upset about the Desert Eagle. They'll be quickly running out the room. I'm only playing, I'm only joking. I had to throw that in there. I just got that Desert Eagle today and I've just been messing around with it, so I just thought I'd throw that in there. Arthur Wright's sheep's foot. What else? I've run out of things to compare it to. Well, anyway, that pretty much concludes this video. Hopefully I didn't offend too many people. I was just messing around in this video, not looking out to offend anyone, but someone will be offended somewhere or another. Thanks for watching, and let me know your thoughts on the knife below. See you later.